So, obvious question. It is your first time picking up a set of poi. What should you learn? Drex here from DrexFactor.com, and this week I'm going to give you a very special lesson. I'm going to give you guys the first lesson I always give my private students to know what to start with poi. Before we dive in, I just want to take a moment to give a shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Dark Monk, Flow Toys, LMF Props, Spin Balls, and Ultrapoi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can learn more about all these awesome companies by checking out the links that I've got down in the description of this video. Okay, so poi is really fun, but there's a really obvious question when you start off, and that is, where exactly do you start? Now, I've done videos on how to hold poi and some of the basic concepts behind it. I'll go ahead and link to that playlist up here in the description and everything. But the question remains, if I've got only an hour to get started with poi, what exactly should I learn? Or if I'm teaching people, what exactly should I be teaching them? Now, your mileage may vary on this, but when I'm teaching somebody their first poi lesson, there are three major things that I want them to learn in the course of it. And I'm going to teach you guys the three tricks that I usually start off teaching everybody in their first lesson so you guys can get an idea of what that looks like. The first of these tricks is, of course, a reel turn. This is the first trick that I was ever taught back in the day. And just to put it out there, I spent 2 hours trying to learn this trick and I couldn't. So if you learn this trick in your first lesson, you're already doing better than I did. Now, in this first lesson, I don't really tell people that much about timing and direction simply because they don't need to know it just yet. But what they do need to know is that whenever you turn and change your orientation relative to the planes of the poi seem to change the direction that they're turning in, right? So let's break that down for a second. I've already done some tutorials on how to do reel turns that I'll link to up in the cards and down in the description and everything, but this is kind of the Cliff's Notes of what that lesson looks like. You basically start off with the poi spinning forwards at your sides, almost like you're standing in between a pair of railroad tracks, right? And when you want to switch from spinning the poi forwards relative to you as they are now to spinning reverse, what you're going to do is bring both of the poi over the same railroad track. I'm going to turn to my left, yeah? So what's going to happen is they're both going to switch over as they go down past my ankles, and I'm going to swing them out away from myself as I turn my body 180 degrees. Now, the poi feel like they're going reverse relative to me. Now, you might notice on camera, looks like they didn't change at all, right? This is part of the trick to it. When I want to switch back to spinning the opposite way, I'm going to wait until those poi are going out away from me. And once again, they're going to switch to both going over the same railroad track, up and over, and they're going to come down, spinning forwards on the other side of my body. So they're going to go past my ankles to reverse, past my eyeballs, going to forwards, past my ankles, going to reverse, and past my eyeballs, going to forwards, yeah? Okay, so this is great for teaching one of the great concepts of poi. That is, depending upon where you are in the orientation of the plane, it might look like the poi are spinning in two different directions. And this is one of those things that the human brain kind of has a difficult time with at first, so the sooner you get people started on working with that, the better. Now, there's also the issue that that trick only really addresses what's going on in wheel plane, right? I also always want to start people off by learning something that happens in wall plane as well. And the easiest way I know how to do that is to teach them a butterfly. The way that I know how to teach a butterfly, again, I borrowed this from Nick Woolsey, anybody can learn this in about 5 minutes, is to start off with the poi wrapped up in your hands and use your arms to trace out big circles going opposite directions in front of you. When you get comfortable with that, you want to release one coil of the poi and try and see if you can get the poi to function as extensions of your arms. Now, you're going to go ahead and let out the rest of the poi and do full circles with both your arms and poi at the same time. When you can do 10 reps of this without getting the poi tangled, start to go down to only doing those circles from your elbows. And finally, just from your wrists. When you can do this, you've got down a butterfly. Congratulations. Okay, so now we know two tricks. We know how to do a basic reel turn in wheel plane, and we know how to do a butterfly in wall plane. But how exactly do we get back and forth between these two things? How do we connect the two concepts? A lot of students will do what I did when I first started spinning poi, which is they'll notice that if their planes get a little wonky as they're spinning in wheel plane, that they're going to start to look a little bit like that butterfly, and they can switch them all the way over into wall plane. I personally think this looks super ugly, and I prefer that people, as soon as possible, start off figuring out how to transition between the two. And they can do that either with a stall or a wrap. Or, a pendulum will work too in this case. But For people's first lesson, I almost always start them on a stall, simply because that's a thing that they should get down sooner rather than later. Okay, so how do we get there? Well, start off with your dominant hand, whichever one it happens to be. I'm right-handed. I'm going to spin it clockwise in front of me, and I am going to wait to that point where the poi is starting to drop over to my right-hand side, and I'm going to move out my hand above it. Almost everybody, when they start off, go out a little bit early, and they find that the poi keeps just kind of swinging underneath their hand and everything. And that's okay, because especially when you're just starting off and everything, if you have to wait a couple seconds to be able to bring it back in for the butterfly, no big deal. But as you're working on it, it helps to think that you want to bring your hand out later and later in order to make the poi really stop wherever it happens to be. It's good to do this with your right hand to start with, because you can stop the poi in such a way that it's hanging beneath your hand and bring it up and over into that butterfly in order to complete the move, right? Because gravity is helping you out at this point, you don't really have to do much to basically be able to wait for the ideal moment to bring it back into a butterfly. To get back, however, is a little bit more challenging. You've got two options. One is that you can simply sweep the poi out to the side and let it fall back into clockwise, which, you know, there's a little bit of patting your head and rubbing your belly that comes into that particular way of getting back. The other way you can do it is to try and stall it over your arm and bring it back. Both of these, of course, have some challenges to them. Normally when people start off on this one, I tell them to just do the sweep out to the side and let it drop back in to get them back into spinning forwards. But your mileage may vary. Either which way, the idea is you want to start off doing your together same real turns, stall with the right hand, come back into a butterfly, and then stall with the right hand again, come into your real turns once again. So if y'all are keeping tabs here, we've just learned 3 tricks, and the 3 tricks flow into each other. So right coming out of the first lesson, people are able to do transitions going back and forth between all of these things, which is kind of awesome. So if you dug all of these pieces and you would like to learn more beginner poi, I highly recommend signing up for my Intro to Poi class over at my learning site at learn.drexfactor.com. I cover all 3 of these tricks as well as so many more and give you all the tools that you need to get started on your flow journey. Go ahead and check that out once again at learn.drexfactor.com. So fellow teachers, let me know down in the comments, what are the tricks that you usually teach in your first poi lessons for people? I'm really curious. And also for all of you out there who are getting started spinning for your very first time, please leave me a comment and let me know what you thought of this lesson. Let me know if this worked for you guys and if it got you interested in learning more. And of course, what you'd like to learn next. And before I set you guys loose, I just want to put out a massive thank you to all of my awesome supporters on Patreon. Without you guys, the videos on this channel would not be possible. And if you, the viewer, would like to sign up to support the work that I do, please head on over to patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi and sign up to help out. So what was your first poi lesson like? Was it a complete disaster like mine was? Or did you guys take to it like a fish to water? I'd really love to know. Leave me a comment and leave me your suggestions for other things you'd love to learn. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And of course, check out the other videos on this channel too. Thank you so much for watching and enjoy the flow. Peace.